I'm sure you've heard there was a blood moon last night. A super blue blood moon. I don't know if you know what that means, but a blue moon is the second full moon of the month. It has nothing to do with the color of the moon. You've heard the phrase, once in a blue moon, right? The super is because it is so close to the Earth during its elliptic orbit and looks larger than normal. The term blood moon is a lunar eclipse which turns the moon red. Okay, it is usually kind of an orange color, but you get the idea. It was a once-in-a-lifetime chance to see an event like this. I wasn't going to miss it. I live in the desert where the only light is the moon. I turned off all of the lights in my house and yard so I could get the best view. I went out to watch it. I was like all the others in the world who went out from 3 to 6 in the morning to see this exciting event. At first it was really super bright, so bright that I couldn't see anything for the first few minutes after looking at it. Then it looked bigger and bigger and the eclipse started. Slowly, the shadow of the Earth covered the moon until it was dark red. It went from super light outside to really dark. It was so pretty. I must have fallen asleep in the cozy blankets and foam mattress I put out in the back of my truck because I awoke to this weird chanting. I always thought my neighbors were weird, but tonight I have no words for their behavior. Murderers, cult members. I have never met them face to face, and I'm not even sure they knew who I was before tonight. As I was laying down in the back of the truck, they couldn't see me, but I had a full view of their backyard. Where we live, there aren't a lot of trees. I can see right into their yard, even though it isn't very close. I noticed a bunch of people wearing what looked to be red robes standing around a big fire. They were chanting something, but it was too far away to hear exactly what they were saying or what language it was in. I peered with the binoculars and noticed they were moving back and forth, swaying side by side into each other and holding hands. The chanting grew louder and louder until someone rode up on a motorcycle. As he stepped off his bike and held out his arms, 2 of the chanters covered him in a black robe. I watched as they swayed to and fro in some kind of trance as he spoke. I couldn't hear what he was saying or even what their faces looked like, but I'm sure they were in some sort of self-hypnotic state. They held their arms up toward the moon and began chanting loudly. This I could hear.
The sacrifice for the blood moon is here. Kill her! Kill her!
A woman wearing one of the red robes was pushed out from the crowd and landed face first in front of the leader. She kneeled before him and then slowly rose as the 2 helpers pulled her to her feet. They yanked the robe from her body, and she stood almost naked in front of the leader. The only thing covering her was a sarong around her hips. She held her arms up in the air and began to dance as they tossed some form of a liquid on her. The woman didn't seem scared at all. The man said something that I couldn't hear, and the robed members shouted,
"In his name, in his name!"
The 2 helpers grabbed her arms, and suddenly she began to scream. They pushed her toward the fire, with the leader following behind. It looked like they strapped her to a pole and tied her arms behind her back. I stared in horror as a fire started underneath her and began to climb up her body. Whatever they put on her must have ignited the flames. As she screamed, I dialed 911. The cops weren't close at all, but I was outnumbered. I knew by the time I drove my truck toward them, she still would be dead and I would be murdered. As I hit the last digit, I watched, and suddenly they all looked down at their phones. I could hear them ringing. They looked at each other and around the barren field until they saw my truck and started running towards me. I jumped into the driver's seat of my truck and left that place. I'm still traveling as I write this, and I don't know when I'll stop. I did pull a bunch of cash out of the ATM this morning, as much as it could dispense, but that won't last long. All but one of my credit cards were canceled this morning by an unknown source. And now, I'm afraid to use the working card, for they could be tracking me. I'm alone and scared. Somebody please help me.